Yeah, I know it sucks, but I'm gonna have to tell them. Oh, they're here. I gotta go. Bye. Hello there, and welcome back to Planet Guardian 101. In this series, we dive into the 5 core elements that make life in this planet possible: earth, fire, water, air, and spirit. Each of these elements shape everything around us, from our environment to our planet to ourselves. Because we are all made of the same stuff, the same patterns, the same energy, the same life force. So we look at how those elements might appear and function in these two different but intrinsically connected beings, us and planet Earth itself. From there, we examine the imbalances and the issues of these elements in the modern human world. And more importantly, we'll explore the solutions to these problems, which already exist and they're out there being put to practice. They just need to be better understood and put to more practice by more people like you and me. Stick with me to the end, and I'll give you some missions to transform all of that knowledge into action and level up as a planet guardian. There are 3 tiers of missions for you to choose from: the missions of self, the local hero ones, and the ultimate planet guardian missions. Each tier explores different levels of influence that your actions can have so that you truly understand that everything you do matters. Even small efforts that you put into the future that you want to see, the person that you want to be, it shapes the life for everyone and everything around us. Yes, we truly are that powerful. All we need to do is remember it, then act on it. And this is what this course is all about: giving you knowledge, science, and a different perspective to which to observe life so that your individual, unique mission on the planet becomes clearer to you. Today, we will be speaking about the element of fire, the energy of both life and death. From the embracing warmth of another living being to the cleansing flame that humanity has ever relied on, to the destructive inferno that leaves behind nothing but ash. Fire is transformative power. Earth, water, and air nurture the body, fire consumes. Whether it is burning any kind of matter into energy so that we can use, or consuming our human attention to channel through it the fires of creation, this element has a deep hold in humanity and its future. And it's the most imbalanced element by far. And this imbalance is risking the health and integrity of the planet itself, bringing us all back to a state of undoing that primordial Earth knows all too well. Stepping away from the boundaries of Earth's space and time is necessary to understand fire's importance for our planet. Earth, water, and air are mostly contained within our atmosphere, but fire can roam the universe in the form of photons and wavelengths, courtesy of our sun. At the center of our galaxy, holding together the twirling dance of the Milky Way, is our Regent star, a flaming ball of hydrogen and helium whose light and warmth powers all life on the surface of our planet. Without the sun, if we ignore that everything would grind to a halt from being plunged into the cold, dark wasteland for eternity, plants wouldn't have light to photosynthesize both energy for themselves and oxygen for the rest of us. There would be no warmth to feed the cycle of winds and oceans, no clouds to transport water. Without the fire from the sun, there would be no life on planet Earth. But there could still be life in planet Earth. As being a living being in itself, it has its own warmth. A core of molten lava as hot as the surface of the sun, almost 6,000 degrees Celsius. This giant sea of underground fire generates Earth's magnetic field, builds mountains, and moves tectonic plates that hold Earth's surface landmasses. Long ago, the continents were stuck together, but through this underground dance between giants of rock and lava, slowly but surely, our continents drifted apart to the setup that we have now. All this fire cannot help but come out, as vents and fractures in the bottom of the ocean cause pockets of warmth in which life can exist. Volcanoes on the surface are mostly known for its destructive powers when they erupt to release pressure from Earth's fiery core. A majestic scene from afar, terrifying from up close. But nevertheless, they are sources of life, like the Hawaiian Islands, which grow due to volcanic activities, or Yellowstone supervolcanoes, which create geysers and hot springs across the south of North America. Fire is an element that both gives and takes. A big function of fire in our modern world is the carbon cycle. Water through the ocean, air through our atmosphere, and earth through our carbon are the main players of this cycle. But fire dictates how much of the earth carbon becomes air carbon, and therein lies our biggest modern problem. Earth's carbon cycle has two distinct phases, slow and fast. The fast cycle belongs to life. Plants pull CO2 from the atmosphere and store its carbon through photosynthesis. Then animals eat those plants, storing that carbon while respirating and releasing CO2 into the atmosphere, which cycles to be taken up by plants again. The slow cycle belongs to planet Earth herself, where organic carbon gets geologically stored into the Earth, a process that takes 100 to 200 million years to complete. Think of dinosaurs becoming fossil fuel stored deep in the Earth. Modern human activity and development releases the carbon from all of these via fire. We burn the slow cycle carbon, such as coal, oil, and gas, but we also burn plants, animals, whole forests for multiple reasons. Fire consumes all of that physical material carbon and then spits it into the atmosphere in gas form. CO2, carbon dioxide, the gas that originally dominated the Earth's primordial atmosphere when it was inhabitable. Before plants figured out how to alchemize the fire of the sun into energy and oxygen, paving the way for me to exist, so I could be telling you this right now. Everything is interconnected, but the power of fire is unmatched. No pun intended. All that is alive holds the fire of creation, but humans are singularly powerful in wielding this fire due to the fact that we're conscious of it. We can step outside ourselves and use creation to go way beyond just reproducing. We create tools like a torch to light the dark. We create systems like controlling and manipulating fire so we can cook and process different foods. We create new methods of transportation like oil-powered engines for airplanes, and that can take us beyond what our ancestors could ever imagine. Our human capacity to be conscious of our creative power allows us to observe it from a third-person perspective and channel that into what all other beings of nature would call magic. We don't just think, we think about thinking. We observe our thoughts and then have the capacity to speak them out in language, to eternalize them through writing. We draw plans from our imagination and transform them into reality in the material world. And that is our inner fire. We also have an outer fire. When we exercise, our body gets warm from burning calories through movement and effort. In India, this is called prana, which comes from Sanskrit and means continuous flow, the vital energy that keeps life going. From a scientific perspective, prana can be linked to cellular respiration, where mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, metabolize glucose and oxygen to produce ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Literally cellular combustion, the fire of life. Exercise raises your temperature, your metabolic rate, your blood circulation. You breathe air, sweat water, and your body produces tons of feel-good chemicals that remind you that you are alive. Exercise in the sun and double that fire. Vitamin D, serotonin, it's honestly the best feeling ever. So humans have a fire of the mind and of the body, and I think that's pretty cool. When we study the indigenous people of this world, they talk about fire as medicine. For example, in cultural burning, where an intentional, small, and controlled fire is prescribed in a specific area at the right dose so that it maintains the natural abundance and prosperity of that ecosystem. What the colonizers perceived as untouched wilderness in North America was actually the result of generations of indigenous cultural burning, which created a mosaic of grasslands and forests, which were sustainably managed. These cultural burns protect areas from wildfires and, in some situations, even provide material for cultural practices. For example, after a burn, hazel shrubs grow back with straight shoots, and these are ideal for weaving traditional baskets, which the entire group benefits from. When balanced, fire is cleansing, life-giving, renewing. But when it's out of balance, it can be immensely destructive in a scale that is almost hard to comprehend. Humans might be the most advanced life forms on Earth currently. But if aliens are keeping track of this planet's timeline, this is by far the dinosaur planet. Dinosaurs lived and thrived here for impressive 180 million years. Homo sapiens, us, have been around for not even 1 million, just measly 300,000 years. To put it into perspective, if planet Earth's timeline was compressed into 1 year starting when the dinosaurs appeared, the dinosaurs were here from January 1st to the end of September, with humans appearing only on December 31st. And that's where we still are. Mind-boggling. After the meteor crashed into planet Earth, the force was so huge, the impact so strong, that it blanketed the atmosphere with ash. This rapid change in climate and atmosphere killed most of its dinosaur life forms and choked what was left in the coming years. Millions of years passed, and the plant life of Earth managed to, once again, create stability for life on land. And then we had the Holocene, which coincided with the post-Stone Age of human history. Humanity grew and thrived under the Holocene for the majority of its 12,000 years until the Industrial Revolution created automated machines that burned fossil fuels and allowed for a small portion of humanity to colonize the entire world. During this very small time, humanity's domination over the planet's ecological systems and biogeochemical cycles had such a huge impact that the Holocene became the Anthropocene, the epoch of human influence. In just 200 years of unrestricted burning of slow cycle fossil fuels, still on December 31st, humanity has wrecked the planet's atmosphere to such a point that we are extremely close to recreating the rapid climate change conditions that wiped out the dinosaurs. The difference is that we are conscious of it, and we don't really have a meteor to blame. It's doubly embarrassing. To add insult to injury, our modern energy systems rely on dinosaur matter, but that's not the only part that is archaic. Our technology has also stopped in time with the process of extracting fossil fuels from the depths of the earth, involving violent drilling and exploding, which causes spills and leaks that poison water, air, and earth. It also consumes an immense amount of water that is filled with different poisons and chemicals that make it unusable. And then, for a third knife in the back of humanity's evolution, not only do we plunder and poison Earth to stuff the atmosphere with burned CO2, we also extensively destroy the oxygen producers that process that carbon, our plants and forests. It's a self-reinforcing loop that we trapped ourselves into by refusing to upgrade from dirty fossil fuel burning to clean renewable energy, such as solar, wind, ocean. Even nuclear could have been very interested had we not transformed the climate into unpredictable and unstable. Because humans are incredibly intelligent and conscious, we have known this would happen for a very long time. In the 60s, gas and oil companies had their own scientists study the effects of burning fossil fuels, and they discovered with remarkable accuracy the unfolding of what we see in the present, 60 years later. But money and power are very tempting. Investing in infrastructure upgrades and systemic change is expensive, and no one really wants to admit they're doing things wrong on purpose. So, when the choice was made of stagnation and profit over evolution and sustainability, that choice needed some serious PR. And that's where greenwashing and lobbying come into the picture. Greenwashing, simply put, is the dissemination of misleading information that conceals environmental abuse in order to present a positive public image. Common strategies are focusing on net zero goals in X amount of years while continuing business as usual in the now. Carbon offsetting, which is a short-term band-aid tactic that creates this eco-friendly image despite continuing pollution and no real emission mitigation. Carbon capture and storage that promises technology will save us, even though that mentality is a huge part of the problem. Using pretty words like clean and natural that makes us automatically consider something good without much thought. Popping trees and polar bears in ads, showing images of a vast clean ocean. Using colors like green and blue, which are soothing and associated with eco-friendliness, when you know full well that your activities are eco-unfriendly. Personal responsibility through the carbon footprint. It's all well and good to be aware and responsible of your actions and consumptions. It's necessary. But considering the vast majority of emissions comes from a very small portion of humanity, it's mostly a PR campaign to make you feel responsible for their destruction, all while they rake in tons of money, tons. And last but most pervasive, in my opinion, is how they use that money. They fund museums, schools, universities, even journalism. You'd think these were great initiatives, but if only they weren't tied with the obligation to withhold criticism. Make yourself necessary to the community and people will think twice, thrice, before criticizing your harmful activities. And the same thing works for lobbying. Politicians make loopholes and drop regulations all the time to favor getting some money in their pocket or forwarding personal election goals. Even siphoning citizen taxes to subsidize the activity of these giants who made themselves so important and fundamental in every aspect of our societies. It's very clever, you have to admit. The many angles of these strategies, they work really well together to create this veil of illusion that everything is fine. But that doesn't really stop the effects of all of these issues piling up in the background. And the place we see those effects happening the most? Our human bodies. The imbalance of the fire element that is at the core of climate change has shifted the average temperature of the planet about 1.5 degrees so far. It may seem like it's a little, but if you think about how much energy it takes for the entire planet to raise that temperature, it's a lot. This means our heat waves are longer and more extreme. And I'm sure everyone has experienced a summer day where you feel legitimately ill. I sure have at the 2021 heat dome that happened here in BC. Those were 3 days where the temperatures never dropped below 33 degrees and actually slowly increased up to about 45 with every new sunrise. Sleeping was difficult, moving was so hard, and rain was hyperventilating. It was the only time I regretted having a west-facing apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows. About 600 people died in those 3 days, that we know of, from cardiovascular and respiratory issues, dehydration, acute renal failure, heat stroke, and mental health episodes. Extreme heat escalates almost every health issue and overwhelms our hospitals. Complete chaos. Some people say, just get an air conditioner, but nature doesn't have an air conditioner. Our farmland doesn't have air conditioner, and so do many, many people. It would be easy to brush it aside, except it shaped me forever. It felt apocalyptic to witness the conifer forest that was underneath my building. These strong trees that just withstand everything were wilting. It was honestly the turning point for me and where I decided to do something about all of this. If that wasn't enough, extreme heat means extreme drought, which means any spark or can in the woods can cause a massive wildfire, which incidentally have dramatically increased in number, size, and intensity during the past decades. Consuming everything in its path, wildfire smoke is 10 times more toxic than regular fossil fuel pollution. It carries this fine particulate matter from everything that it burns, becoming a super pollutant with the name black carbon. It intensifies heat waves, alter weather patterns, accelerate the melting of ice and snow. If it can trash planet Earth herself, you can imagine what it can do to your lungs and body. I know, trust me, I didn't want to talk about this. The Balrog of the Anthropocene is my literal biggest nightmare. But in the spirit of we cannot change what we refuse to confront, we hold tight to Gandalf and look to the solutions. What we truly need is to return to evolution. We've been stagnant for far too long for two reasons. Archaic technology, for sure, but more than anything, an archaic mindset attached to value. The core issue with our economic system is that we treat nature as free. The atmosphere is free to pollute, forests is wood and timber to sell, rivers and the ocean are our chemical and trash bins. When our economy doesn't assign value to something, it can get destroyed with no consequence. Well, monetary consequence, that is. Similarly, we think that fossil fuels are super profitable because the environment and human health costs of these activities is not really accounted for. Their massive profit accumulation is only possible because the majority of the real cost gets put onto nature, people, and the future. So we need an evolution on how we think about value by using approaches such as true cost accounting. This approach measures and values the hidden impacts of economic activities on three fronts: environment, society, and health. It acknowledges the complex interdependency of our supply chains, with many more stakeholders than just the big dog billionaires. Understanding that there's multiple capitals that are on the line: natural, social, human capital on top of produced capital. We have multiple frameworks for this already: the ESG valuation, natural capital accounting, we have the SEEA, which is the System for Environmental Economic Accounting, and the Green GDP. Tools exist. What we lack is political will and courage because our systems are currently held hostage by the powerful fossil fuel industry. But making the invisible visible truly shatters the long-term feasibility of fossil fuels, which even the oil and gas companies know that we passed long, long ago. Now we are seeing and feeling the true cost of all of these activities. And it honestly feels insane to not have used all of that energy to transition away from it as fast as we possibly could into renewable energy. We could easily move on from drilling, exploding, and trashing the planet to access dinosaur carbon. A lengthy, expensive, and destructive extractive process with long term permanent consequences to voltaic cells that harvest the power of our sun, the star that has powered all life on this planet, including the dinosaurs and all the plants that they consume, which ultimately is what we are burning. We could simply remove all these middlemen and harvest the power of our star, or the air from our winds, or the tidal and wave energy from our oceans. We could totally leave the dinosaurs to their eternal and well deserved rest instead of burning them into the atmosphere to recreate our very own human made meteor. Like they say, the best time to do this was 50 years ago, but the second best time is now. Many countries are already well on their way, but North America continues to hold on to what we believe to be our glory days, warring and burrowing into our very own graves. T-Rex would be aghast. Clean renewable energy is truly the only way at this point. The most effective solution to most of our problems continues to be and always will be nature. We have to stop destroying the millions of years of evolution that created our natural carbon sinks and work to revert that destruction, rewilding whatever we can. Nurture the plants and forests and animals and ecosystems that not only purify the air, but purify the water and hold together the earth that keeps us all alive. And stopping the destruction of fire requires, you heard it before, degrowth. The most significant action you can take is choose not to consume oil and gas and stuff, to be honest. Use public transport, carpool, bike, walk. 10,000 steps a day will fill you up with life force. If you must consume like we all do so locally. Leave online shopping aside and invest in your own community, your local farmers, shop owners, and artists. And then advocate against deforestation and habitat destruction because we need to protect whatever is left. Rewilding not only strengthens our carbon sink shield, but it increases the health and biodiversity of our ecosystems, which increases our own personal and communal resilience. We can also naturalize city landscape and the urban matrix so that we have more green spaces, we have more blue infrastructure. So we introduce nature into our cities and learn to live alongside it. All of these work as a climate change mitigation and adaptation strategy because that absorb the carbon that heats the city up and puts out water, the evapotranspiration, that cools the city down. But it also provides shade from the sun. It absorbs the sun as well. Yes, humans are brilliant and our technology is fantastic, but it'll never overcome the intelligence of nature, which is built upon millions of years of evolution of all of these things working together. We cannot set ourselves apart from it and think that we can do better than evolution. And that mindset is actually one of the big reasons why we're here, trapped in this condition where we cannot move on because all of our systems are based from we can do better. It's an arrogance that diminishes us as people, as humans. So, to get some of our honor back, here are your missions. For our individual missions, you know I love journaling prompts. So, take some time to sit in the sun or be in front of a campfire, light a candle, and journal about your experience with fire. Do you have good or bad memories associated with this element? I have great camping stories, but I also almost set my house on fire when I was little. What are my feelings surrounding climate change? This was a very illuminating experience for me and brought up a lot of grief that I didn't know I had. Am I aware of my oil and plastic consumption? How much stuff do I buy without really needing to? Does fossil fuel dependency or car dependency even, do they shape my society? Materially or mentally? How so? Go deep. What are the things that make you feel that creative spark in you? What makes you stoked to go do stuff? This is potentially the most important prompt. And then, after you've done your pondering, rebalance your carbon output. Spend a week or a weekend only using public transit. Use it to explore 3 local parks. Or walk or run to your public park. Pick a week to record and decrease your plastic consumption. Write everything down that has plastic. You will be so surprised by how much you actually consume without recognizing it. One of my favorites, and inspired by Lord of the Rings, as many things in my life, gaze into the fire. If you have a fireplace, or if you go camping, you have a campfire or even a candle, just look into the flame and meditate on the essence of that flame. And if you truly want to understand just how far the imbalance of fire is in our world right now, I would recommend this book, Fire Weather by John Vaillant, a true story from a hotter world. For your local hero missions, you know the drill: degrowth. Shop locally, support your community, build your network of resilience with the people that literally live around you. Decrease your car reliance, get your steps in, and get to talking with your neighbors. Improve your collective connectivity. And then rewild your green space. Whether you have a balcony or a garden, there is so much that you can do to just amp up the nature around you. Small balconies are actually incredibly important because they serve as stepping stones for like the green infrastructure network that exists in your area. It might not contribute much to the carbon sink aspect of it all, but it can work really well as a stepping stone for biodiversity, for bees and butterflies and all these other pollinators that need a place to stop and rest and get some food or drink. They also decrease the urban heat island effect in your immediate area by providing plant shade and evapotranspiration. It decreases your air quality through filtrating the air, which can decrease respiratory health issues and issues related to heat exhaustion and dehydration. Bonus points if you can create something where your neighbors join in. I'm always telling my neighbors about how great I think my balcony is, and they get interested, and then I show it to them. I offer to go to the garden center with them and to help them select native plants that will be easier for them to take care of. Honestly, I find that people are just waiting for the opportunity or for something to say, hey, have you thought about this? You can plant the seeds in more than just one way. And then the top tier Planet Guardian missions. For this one, you have to embody your warrior spirit because it is a battle. It's a battle against stagnation. It's a battle against the way we've always done things. It's a battle against a mentality that has been incredibly harmful. Here, I recommend that you join a group that is organizing to meet with your governance in order to get some legislation passed towards clean energy and stopping fossil fuel projects from being implemented. Because we have to reduce our energy system's reliance on oil, gas, and coal, fossil fuels, and then transition to renewable energy. But in some countries, like here in Canada, that involves basically uprooting the foundation of what this country was built on. So the industry has a lot of money, a lot of influence, a lot of power, and there is a lot of fear in people from having to make such a gigantic change. Advocate for polluter accountability because that is where the money comes from to fund this renewable transition and all the nature-based solutions like rewilding that I explain in this video. Advocate for public transit, which decreases individual car infrastructure, individual emissions, and then also increases accessibility, walkability in the cities, people's health. It may not seem like much, but shopping locally and eating locally and seasonally have a big impact on the global supply chain, especially in relation to online shopping. Your money is your power. Every time you spend money, you cast a vote for the future that you support, and you will get. Use it wisely. Like I said, it's better to reach out for a group that already has an organized strategy around this because it can get really overwhelming to try to do this on your own because, like I said, it is a battle. This one is a battle. You have to have your sword and your shield and your magic wand and your companions too because no one goes anywhere alone. And honestly, nothing fills me with more hope than being a part of the change that other people are already doing, of following the path that someone else is already paving. And then your last global mission, but certainly not least, is to embody everything that you have learned because every conversation that you have matters. It takes true bravery to confront the reality that we're currently facing and then present it with a vision of a better one. When you have a strong core of hope and then you align it with action, incredible things happen. So connect these organizations that are working towards renewable transition or community building. Get involved because action truly is the antidote to despair and helplessness. how fast change wants to become real and how we start moving in that direction, things kind of flow to help us go there because nature itself is on that side. The collective, collaborative, intelligent force of nature is behind all of that. So, supporting these places that are working towards the future that you want with either time or money solidifies that future. Use the power of your human voice and hands because you are truly, truly powerful. So that's it for the fire element, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking to the end. I hope you found some helpful tips and tricks and you get on your missions because they are the ones that make the most impact for you and the planet as a whole. Next up, we have the element of air, which is intricately connected to fire, as you may have noticed. So I hope you'll join me there.